the official opposition. Mr. McCauley, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks for some of your answers today. I just want to get back to a question that Mr. Perkins, I think, asked earlier. Who directed you to redact these documents? Because it didn't come on your own volition. We know very clearly that Parliament has a right to order these documents. So who ordered you to redact these documents?
Mr. Chair, I would say that
No, I'm not asking. You would say a straight question, straight answer. Who ordered you to redact these documents?
Mr. Chair, when a request comes in, either through the Access to Information Act or production of papers, central coordination within PCO will send out a request, and we are requested to comply with the request that's been presented, like I said, either under the ATI or production of parliamentary documents. And it would be...
Ms. McClintock, I'm going to interrupt you. This is not under the ATIP Act. It's not under the Privacy Act. It's a direct order from Parliament. We have unfettered access to records as long as those records exist in Canada. That is the law. The law clerk has stated as such. Parliament has ordered. Who directed you or someone else to redact these documents before sending them back to us? And it's not a group decision. It's not something in the ether. I would like the name of the person who directed you to redact those documents, please.
Mr. Chair, I would say it's the Access to Information Act that we rely on.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. The Access to Information Act is not a person. It did not all of a sudden become sentient and order you to redact those documents. What is the name of the person who ordered you to redact the documents?
Mr. Chair,
to present to committee,
point of order.
please?
I'm just going to making assumption that somebody ordered. The witness is trying to explain how they go through the process, but won't let the witness finish the answer. I'm having a hard time understanding. If we wanted to get to the bottom of the truth, we must let the witness speak. Let the witness speak.
Mr. Drouin, your side will be up in just a few short minutes. Mr. Well, it's
sorry,
true.
Mr. Chair, we have to have an orderly debate. I don't care.
No, actually, Mr. Drouin, this is not a debate time. This is
exactly when a member of Parliament asks a question, we have to let the witness answer.
Mr.
And we're not letting the witness answer. We keep interrupting.
Wrong about that. This is
absolutely no. I'm not wrong. I've been here for 9 years. This is not how we operate on committees.
For 9 years. This is the members' time, and that applies to your side as well as the opposition, to ask the witnesses, to interrupt them, to refocus the question.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Chair, are we opining on the witness's testimony, or do we want the answer? This is what I'm asking. Do you want the truth, or do you want members?
The truth. That's
we might as well not have witnesses if they're not able to answer.
Mr. Drouin, I'm sorry you don't like the way the opposition asks questions, but they're entitled to ask it.
They're not asking questions. They're opining. They're asking a question and then keep interrupting.
That's your interpretation, sir. That's your interpretation, and we give you the opportunity to ask questions your way and to ask the witnesses to
I don't interrupt the witness when they answer because actually, I have respect.
I think you interrupt people more than I think you realize.
I know, man.
Mr. McCauley, and again, what I see here, Mr. Drouin, is every time you jump in and interrupt the officials here, it looks like you've got something to hide. The official is actually doing a job here.
You're opining on my opinion.
Well, I am, because you're sitting there doing the same thing to me.
Because I cannot listen to the witness. That's the point, Mr. Chair. If we are going to have an honest conversation here, we must let the witness answer the question.
Right. All right.
Simonek.
Well, except the opposition has got a great point that there are rights from Parliament that have not been respected. Mr. McCauley is trying to get to that very answer and trying to do so.
Point of order, Chair.
Mr. Drouin, your side will have an opportunity for 5 minutes. Yes, Ms. Khalid. Oh, really? All right. Yes, Ms. Khalid.
Thank you very much, and I do have to say that there is a point to be made about decorum. And as chair, it is very difficult for members of all parties for us to digest your own opinions on this committee. As you know, Chair, and I respect you immensely, but being neutral, being nonpartisan on this committee is very important, and I really appreciate that my colleague has expressed his views, and I have said this time and time again, that when witnesses come before committees, they should be given the opportunity to respond to the questions that they are being asked. This is not an interrogation. This is not an opportunity to grasp whatever clips the opposition may want to fundraise off of tomorrow or today. This is, a fact-finding mission, as Monsieur Drouin clearly pointed out. So, Chair, I would really expect you to do your job as Chair, to be nonpartisan, and to ensure that there is decorum in how we operate as members and how we treat witnesses in this committee.
Tom would have cut you off at those.
Thank you.
Yeah, he would have.
Thank you thank you very much. I'm going to go back to Mr. McCauley. Again, as I've said, this time belongs to the members. Mr. McCauley has been respectfully asking just to pinch the question in a little bit more. Mr. Drouin, you're your own worst enemy here when you interrupt yourself. Ms. Khalid, I'm equally hard on the Conservatives when they do the same. When they do, I stopped the meeting and waited for one Conservative member today because I was tired of him lobbying at your side. So if you weren't here for that,
Chair.
I'm
I've
sorry.
been on this committee for a year.
Mr. McCauley, you have the floor. Again, you've got just over 3 minutes.
Holding the information that the committee has ordered.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure I quite understand the member's question. At the end of the day, we would have been the ones to determine the redactions within my group.
So PCO, and the Prime Minister is the Minister in charge of PCO. Again, I'll go back to the original question. Who ordered or directed these documents to be redacted? It has to come from someone. It wasn't on its own. Who, please?
Mr. Chair, as I mentioned, there is a central coordinating unit within PCO who directs when we get requests for parliamentary documents, to prepare the documents, to respect the requests from the parliamentarians, and to apply the necessary legislation.
Walk me through the process. Did you receive this and then go to this central governing board? Did they provide it in writing? Was it a phone call, an email?
We normally get an email sent out at senior levels, so the email probably would have come to me directly or perhaps to
Would you
Rima.
provide that email to us, please, with the directions?
We can certainly have a look if we have that on hand, Mr. Chair, and we'll do our best to provide it as quickly as possible.
You mentioned on hand, and I'm greatly concerned. You mentioned other documents that you quoted, we don't keep documents. You repeatedly referred to the ATIP law, but government has very specific instructions on holding and keeping documents. And yet earlier you stated, when Mr. Cooper was asking, there was only one email about a specific subject. You stated, well, we didn't keep the records, we didn't keep documents. Are you following what is required on the Information Act or the ATIP Act on keeping records?
Mr. Chair, we absolutely hold the responsibility as good stewards, and information management is a top priority for me in our branch, and we absolutely take that responsibility very seriously. As I've mentioned to the committee, the selection committee processes are really like an interview panel where people take notes, and we use those notes as the final documents of the advice letter.
Those notes have to be kept, though. They are required to be kept. But you threw them out.
Mr. Chair, as I mentioned, they're handwritten notes, and they are considered transitory.
I'm sorry, handwritten notes are required under the ATIP Act to be kept. They're not to be thrown out. They're no different than texts or emails. They are required to be kept. Do you not see an issue here?
Mr. Chair, as I've mentioned, the notes are used to formulate the final advice, and that is the final record. And that is the requirement in terms of our record keeping, of our obligations, both within the organization but also under the law, to keep a final record of the deliberations of the selection committee.
How much time, sir?
One last question, brief.
Just very quickly, just walk me through a simple, real easy one. The good behavior appointments, you said they have a very high bar for dismissal. I'm looking at the process for hiring. Everyone does have to sign off on the Governor Council Appointments Candidate Declaration Certification Form, which covers the ethical and political activity guidelines for public office holders. Very clearly, a lot of the directors violated that statute. Why is it so difficult to terminate them when they very clearly failed to follow the rules under the ethical and political activity guidelines for public office holders? I think they met a very high bar in violating these conflicts of interest.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. I'll allow the witness to answer.
Mr. Chair, it's a very fair question that the member asks. What is the bar for good behavior appointees? And as I've mentioned, I'm not a lawyer by training, but our lawyers have advised us that it's cause, and cause is generally where there is a illegal activity or fraudulent activity, or to the member's point that a law has been broken. We would have to do an investigation and have a very solid dossier in order to remove someone. In this case, the individuals resigned before that course of action could have been taken.
Thank you very much.